Hello, this is Just Listen, hosted by George. Today is February 28th, 2024. I was gone for a week. I actually went on a cruise, which was great. So now I'm back. So I want to hit it up right away with what I posted on Monday about the U.S. government policy on NATO. So I posted about why it should be important for taxpayers. I wanted to piggyback off of that and talk about not only the government policy on NATO, but I wanted to add the foreign aid piece to that, which I've talked about several times, but this is a focus point because I want to talk about our reasoning for foreign aid and how it is supplying to NATO. So the first one is providing national security, then advancing our economic interests, supporting humanitarian efforts, and fostering diplomatic relations. So the first one is foreign aid for national security. Now, as it applies to NATO, the United States is actually a part of NATO, so they are part of the 30 countries. The issue is, why are we financially, say the Ukraine, we've given $75 billion in 3 years. The NATO nations have only given $30 billion in 3 years. And we should be sharing resources if we're in NATO, and it's lopsided with the amounts that we are giving. So we need policy that says that it should be equal shares coming from each country. Now, the second one is advancing economic interests. I follow that. I still have the same question. Aren't the Europeans concerned about their economic interests as well? And if they are, why isn't the amount that they are funding equal to what the United States is given? And on top of that, if we look at the Ukraine, I don't think that they're benefiting at all now because the power plant is closed, and also the exporting of agriculture has been stopped in the Ukraine for like the last 2 years. The third one is humanitarian efforts. Now, with the Ukraine, we're not really seeing a big budget for just humanitarian efforts. Most of it is going for national security of the Ukraine. Now, we've put together a package in Congress, it hasn't passed yet, where we are saying that we want to give the Palestinians $40 billion to rebuild. NATO hasn't pledged any money for humanitarian efforts for the Palestinians. The next one is fostering diplomatic relations. So, looking at that one, the diplomatic relations for whom? There is no diplomatic relations with the country that you are at war with, and diplomatic relations so far has meant just funding. We're not in negotiations to end the war in the Ukraine whatsoever. So I'm talking about these reasons for two major ones: the funding, and what is the Ukraine going to look like after this war. And I still don't see that our national policy is objectives are being reached with our interests in being involved in this war in the Ukraine. Now, as far as the funding goes, the Europeans have really helped out with that. But currently, if you look at the news feeds, they're only asking the U.S. for the money. That's a little weird, since it's in Europe's interest to be heavily involved in a war with Russia, not the U.S. And I don't see any proposals, on TV at least, that the Europeans are planning to give more money, only that they want the U.S. to give more money. And so far, like I said earlier, we are given double to what the other countries have given. And it doesn't seem like, especially with the economic interest, that's in our interest whatsoever. And this policy of NATO, like I said on Monday, it works better for the Europeans if people are in NATO so that they can share the resources. And I'm confused to why our involvement is so heavy and theirs is so few of their dollars. Now, Europe is in a recession now, okay, but we could argue that the U.S. is going to be in a recession if we keep going the way that we're currently going. It seems like everybody is waiting for the U.S. to fund yet again everything. And then for our taxpayers, it's going to be a nightmare, because even if they get the $60 billion, are they going to ask for $60 billion more next year? When are they going to show us on paper what it looks like to end the war and then the way forward? And like I said when I posted, Sweden just joined NATO, and that's a great thing, because just imagine if Sweden were invaded by the Russians. We'd have to double what we are contributing to keep them going as well. We cannot keep funding wars abroad indefinitely. That's what I said in my post. And that's really the bottom line. The policy needs to have people's involvement, and then in this case, we were working with NATO, we should be meeting with them, and they do have a budget. What I don't understand is why we don't contribute to that budget and then let NATO react to the current crisis, even though Ukraine is not part of NATO, but they are a European country, so maybe we need to change the rules on that. This is Just Listen, hosted by George. Let me know what you think.